up, nation?
Back. Josh's favorite catchphrase of mine. He said he always he gives me grief, Tony, because I say, and now we're back. Like he thinks I'm surprised every week that we come back. Like
you have to also say we have this very special guest.
We do have a very special guest.
I wouldn't say special. I'm just a guest.
Well, we have a guest tonight. We have the WL 165-pound left and right hand champ this year, Tony Kitowski. What's up, man?
Not too much. Just working hard. What do you guys do?
Pretty much the same
thing. We are
going
to watch you work hard. That's my plan.
No, this fat kid's sitting around being lazy right now, taking care of babies. That's what I'm doing.
It's not a bad plan. Not for now, anyway.
No.
Right? Yeah.
No. Well, training's done for tonight, so now it's just time to chill out and talk to you guys for an hour. I got to get you guys out of the way, and then I get to have some fun with the babies.
Yeah, there you go.
That's pretty much what everybody says. Oh, geez, we got to talk to these guys. Let's get it over with, so they stop texting me and emailing me and trying to get me on the show. I'm just gonna shut them up finally.
No, it's not too bad. I didn't even get your message for what was it? What did it take me 4 or 5 days to respond to you?
That's all right. I'm used to it.
Yeah, you were one of I think it was 112 messages I got on Facebook.
I'm sure you did.
I couldn't even keep up with them all.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
For good reason. You had a good reason to get a lot of messages, man, after that show.
It was definitely cool. I remember last year watching Justin Bishop and Paul Tabbitt, and then Justin Bishop and Giannis Amalins pull for the finals, and I remember being right next to the stage thinking I should be up there. And I told myself last year I'm going to be up there next year, and well, I was up there. I didn't expect both arms, but it was something that even surprised me. There's no doubt about it. So to beat the people with the ease I was beating people with was tremendous. Let me know all the work I did throughout the year paid off.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, definitely.
So what do you attribute that to, Tony? Did you, last year versus this year, did you work more on technique or strength, or did you focus on both? Or do you have an explanation for, the difference of why you made such an impressive, or had such an impressive tournament this year?
I guess the main thing is became more faithful to the Lord. That was that helped me all around, including my life in general. So that helped me become calm, sufficient, just okay with everything. So that was number one. And number two, I kept looking back last year and looked at my losses, why I lost. Looked back at where I thought my weaknesses were. At that point, I thought it was obviously strap last year was not my game. Tendon strength was not my game. Rotation strength was not my game. So I looked back and I put a plan together. I listened to Todd Hutchings' radio show and listened to his strength training methods, and then I studied John Brzenk for hundreds and hundreds of hours, because to me he's the best technical arm wrestler there is as far as hand and wrist. And so I studied John Brzenk, I studied Todd Hutchings' strength and how he does things, and then I studied the other great arm wrestler out there, Travis Bajan. And Travis has one move, straight up pressure, take his opponent's hand and wrist and arm and extend it and pin him extremely fast. So I didn't have to study as hard because he's one move wonder, but it's working for him. So I studied all three of them gentlemen, and I put everything together, and then I put my weaknesses, I put them into the program, my 11-day workout cycle, and I put all them together, and this is what you got, and it was a full year of busting my ass 6 nights a week, no more than a half hour a night. You don't got to work out long, but I kept rotating my workouts every 6 weeks and rotating my plans and mass and power and superpower and I kept logs of everything. And I could tell I was getting stronger by the small tournaments I was going to locally, by beating guys like Brent Rakers and stuff like that. I could tell I was getting stronger, but I didn't really have anywhere to gauge it, because the guys I train with, obviously they're not at my level, so I wasn't able to see if I was actually truly getting stronger according to them. So going to this tournament, the finals, well, I guess regionals first, and then doing what I did at regionals surprised me, and then going to finals and being able to do that at the finals as well.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, was somewhat of ease to a majority of the people there, especially the foreign, the European guys, the Sweden guys. I did not expect that, and it surprised me 100%, and let me know how my training and everything worked out throughout the year. And I'm just going to keep pushing. And I got a bad finger on my left hand right now. I had to beat Paul Tabbitt and Giannis Amalins with that busted up finger. I screwed it up sometime during the tournament.
Yep.
And it still ain't healed yet. It's getting better, but it's still not healed. It just is keeping me from some of my hand strengthening workouts and stuff like that. But it'll heal. It's getting better.
Sure. So would you attribute most of your success this year to just basically, I mean, obviously a lot of hard work, but really consistency?
Well, everything in general, consistency in workouts, paying attention to everything, every little detail. Contacted some of the best strap pullers in the country, asking some advice. There was 2 people I contacted, and obviously that made a huge difference from last year to this year. Last year, every match I lost, with the exception of Roman Grimont, the deep hook battle we had.
Yeah.
Last year, every match I lost was in the strap. So this year, you've seen how the strap went. The strap was the easiest for me. So I mean, it's like you said, consistency, busted my ass all year long, and keeping logs, paying attention, studying other pullers. And that's what I did. I was driving my wife nuts for a month and a half before regionals and then another month before finals, studying on YouTube as much as I could. What's my opponent going to do? And this is the first tournament I went to. The finals was the first tournament I ever went to where, with the exception of a couple guys like Berg from Sweden, I didn't really know how he pulled because there's not much on YouTube about him. But everybody there that was in my class or in the other bracket, I knew exactly what they did and what their weaknesses were. So when I gripped up to everybody at that tournament, I knew exactly where they were going. Not only because I knew them, I felt I knew them personally on the table because I've watched them so often. I was able to feel their pressure and know exactly what I have to do to combat it immediately before the match even started.
And you mentioned, straps was a big focus of yours and rotation was a big focus of yours. Do you think that extra rotational strength was what allowed you to use the strap better this year?
Oh, yeah. I mean, rotation is huge in the strap. If you got a ton of outer rotation, supination, I don't even call it, I think it's supination they call it. I don't even know. I call it outer rotation where your pinky comes out. But, that's huge. If you can tighten that strap along your opponent's wrist, that's huge. And then obviously technique in the strap, getting into the strap, how you set up in the strap, everything matters. And people probably noticed I have a very unique way of setting up in the strap. And I set up in the strap for that reason of I trained for that specific setup. Mm-hmm. So I have a tremendous amount of back pressure, a tremendous amount of down pressure, and I apply both of them at the same time. And when I pulled Giannis Amalins, I literally pulled him right off the pad. So I mean, I train for that setup, but I also train for other setups as well if I need to.
Oh yeah, you've always been a pretty versatile arm wrestler.
Yeah, and I feel you have to be. If you want to be the best arm wrestler you can possibly be, or in my case, it'll never be the best in the world because I'm too small. It's just the way it is. But it could be very well be the best in my weight class in the world. That could very well be, and that's my goal ultimately. But yeah, I mean, you got to be versatile. Guys like Travis Bajan, he's a tremendous arm wrestler. But you know what? There's always going to be 1 or 2 guys that can simply get him inside and hook him and drag him down. The best arm wrestler in the world, John Brzenk, undoubtedly. Look at how versatile he is. He can have a flopped wrist. He can have a busted. He can have a top roll, straight side. It don't matter. Hook inside. He's strong everywhere. Todd Hutchings as well. He's working on his top roll, but it's getting there. But you got to be versatile in the sport. guys like I love the kid working out in the back. That's fantastic.
He's
That's
always
awesome.
Always.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I love it. That's a good kid.
I'm like,
But
hey
yeah.
man, can you leave me alone for like 1 hour? And he's down here lifting weights.
Hey, he's just like Dad.
If
It's
there's ever a reason to bother Dad.
Yeah.
right. So yeah, like I said, you got to be versatile in not only this sport but any sport to be the best. And
Absolutely.
if you're just going to be a strict top roller, like I said, there's going to be people who can hook you. If you're going to be a pure hook arm wrestler like Josef Lovey, a lot of people are saying he's going to go a long ways in the tournament. Well, I predicted that he wasn't going to go a long ways because I knew he was going to have a lot of battles. When you're a hook arm wrestler, what do you have? Long hook matches. And when you're in a WAL style format tournament, that doesn't go very far.
Yeah, it's too fast, fast paced. There might be in a standard tournament, there might be 5-7 minutes in between matches with big classes. And when you have you have a lot of tables and you have fast goes, it might be 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes, right? That's a big difference.
Right.
It's a big difference between a 5-minute rest and 2-minute rest.
Right. So guys like Josef Lovey, he does tremendous in Michael Todd as well. He does tremendous in one-on-one matches with 5 rounds.
Right.
Because their endurance is awesome, but their endurance is not good enough to go through 8-9 guys with 30-second matches with, like you said, 2 minutes in between each match. It just doesn't work like that.
Sure. Yeah, it's very, very tough on those guys, and that's where that that one-on-one format really let some people shine. And then, so it seems like you said, John Brzezink's the best technical arm wrestler that's ever lived. Of course, I don't think you're going to find too many people that disagree. You can throw guys like Devin out there too, and of course they're right up there with them. But the thing about John was he was, for a stretch of time anyway, he was the best tournament and the super match puller of all time. So that's when you talk about styles and have to be versatile. That's a great point all in itself. Is that his versatility and to be able to do anything he wanted to really lent himself to be able to pull in any format he wanted to as well.
Right. And, I tell people the same thing. Michael Todd, for example, he likes to say he feels he's one of the best in the world, which he is. But the thing is Michael Todd's one of the best in the world in, like you said, a super match format.
Sure.
He may not be the best in the world in an arm wrestling tournament style format. John Brzezinski has proved himself in every format. So has Devin Lorette. He's proved himself in every format.
Yes.
Travis Bajans, Todd Hutchings, they've all proved themselves in every format there is. And that's how, in my opinion, you get to be the best arm wrestler. You don't get to be the best arm wrestler by creating your own rules. That's going to work best for you. That's not how it works. That's like saying, that's like a 154-pound guy saying that can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, I'm getting messages on my phone. So it's like saying a 154-pound guy saying that he should be the best lightweight arm wrestler in the world, but he's not because there's a 165-pound weight class. Well,
right.
That's not how it works. You don't get to make the rules. You be the best at every single thing in that sport in order to be the best, period.
And I find that to be a similar fact when it comes to, let's say like amateur class, novice class, open class. And then there are guys who they don't feel like there's enough levels. Like they're like, well, I'm not a great pro. I'm a really like a low level open, but I'm really a high level amateur. I don't know where to go. And it's like, the reality is that it's up to you to really make your own place in there and how you're going to do it. Like, like you said, you studied John, you studied Devin, you studied Todd, you studied Travis, but you took all that information and then you took what worked for you and then added your own thing to it.
Correct. I made up my own workouts.
Right.
I made up my own style. My own style. If you were to watch me arm wrestling, my style, it's my made up style, but it has a lot of John Brzezinski in it, a little bit of Travis because he's only got one move, and I only use Travis's move if I need to, and Todd Hutchings. It's got a lot of Todd Hutchings pure side pressure power. So I put a little bit of everybody into my style and made it work for me. And that's what everybody out there needs to do. If you want to become the best of what you can be, not the best of the best, be the best of what you can be. It doesn't mean you have the genetics to be the best in the world. It's like saying a 5'2" guy is going to be the best basketball player in the NBA. That's not going to work. It doesn't work like that. It's be the best that you can be. And once you get there, fantastic. And, for the guy saying that, I should pull novice a little longer, I say, no, jump up into pro. You're not going to learn anything pulling another novice. Novice, they're learning, they're beginners. You'll learn more grabbing onto a pro's hand. I'll give you an example. When I was at 2005 Mohegan Sun World Championships, after the tournament, I asked John Brzenk to hook up, and we grabbed hands for 2 minutes. And we didn't even arm wrestle. I just felt his pressure, what he did, how he did it. I found out how he did the palm top roll like he does. I just felt it for 2 minutes. I learned more in those 2 minutes than I did 5 previous years arm wrestling.
Sure.
So pay attention. If you got a pro on the table, by all means, arm wrestle the pro. If you're questioning whether you should be an amateur or pro, you're a pro. Go up into pro. You'll learn a lot more. When I was started arm wrestling, I went to my first nationals. There was no amateur.
Right.
You went to nationals, and I pulled Chad Silver and got my ass kicked.
Yeah.
It's who you. It's what you want to be, and like I said, you'll learn a lot more by pulling a pro arm wrestler than any amateur novice arm wrestler out there.
Yeah, and probably the number one lesson you'll learn is that it's not going to kill you. You know what I mean? Because it seems like it's just fear that gets in the way of a lot of people. They go, "Well, I don't want to get killed," and then you might find out that you gave a guy that you didn't think you could pull at all a really good match, and you're just right there.
And frankly, what it comes down to is people don't want to get butt hurt.
Sure.
They don't want their ego to be hurt.
Yeah.
I don't want to lose a match. Well, you know what? I've probably lost more matches than I've won. And if you count practice, which I hardly ever pin a guy, I'm always getting pinned. I have lost more matches than I've won. So you learn when you lose, period.
Right.
So last year when I lost, I learned, and I learned a lot. And I learned a lot throughout the year training from my losses, which then brought me back to this year to be able to come out on top.
Yeah, we just had a new guy at practice come last night, and he was talking about, I was the guy who never really lost a match, and I come here and I'm like, well, you guys are unbelievable, and I'm like, it happens to everybody. First of all, I said, and what the beauty of the sport is, it's very humbling, because I used to train with Tim Bresnan. Tim Bresnan can go to practice for a year straight and never lose a match if he felt like it. But he goes to practice every week and he gets his ass kicked, because that's how you get better. And if because he doesn't have to do that. He could go through and he could have crushed us all every day, any day he wanted to, the whole time, never lost. But he didn't. And that's really what it's about, right? That's how you get better. That's how you learn to pull.
Right. And I'll give you a good example. You had brought up something earlier where this guy might pull somebody he thought he had no chance against, but yet have a war against him. I think it was 2003. I went to Connecticut to one of Pete Milano's tournaments, and I was 176 pounds, and Bill Sinks was there. He was pulling the 198-pound class. Yep. And I remember the year before that, West Virginia, Travis had a tournament. We traveled down there, me and a buddy, and they had a round-robin type format. And I can't remember. It was Kevin Bongard, Chad Silvers, Michael Solaris, Bill Sinks, George Staton. Pretty much the bad of the bad were there. And they were all pulling and arm wrestling. And I remember looking up on stage, I even told my buddy, I said, I'll never be that good. I'll never be that good.
Right.
And then a year later, I go to Connecticut at this tournament. Bill Sinks shows up, and obviously we didn't pull each other in the tournament. We're in different weight classes. I win my class, he wins his class, and we end up pulling against each other in the overalls. He's fresh. I'm fresh. And we ended up pulling against each other in the overalls, and we had a war. And I lost, but we still had a war. And I walked away from the table that day, and I sat down next to my buddy Jeremy, and I said, I almost just beat Bill Sinks. I was just flabbergasted. I couldn't believe that actually happened, because a year earlier I was looking up to him like he was some sort of god, like I'll never touch him.
Right.
But then a year of hard training, I'm right there with him, and I'm lighter than he is. So in my other advice to everybody, if you get the opportunity, pull heavier guys. Yeah. Stop complaining about weight. I cut down to 165. I cut down from about 178 to 165, so I lose about 13 pounds of water. I do that for one tournament a year, the WAL major regionals and the finals. That's it.
Right.
Other than that, I'll go to a tournament, Illinois State, wherever I go, Minnesota, Indiana, wherever I go, I'll pull the 76, the 98s, the 225s, the 242s. I'll pull 6 to sometimes 10 weight classes. Why? Because, well, I'm not trying to be a bully, but I like to be able to grab onto guys' hands that are twice as big as mine.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you do that, and when you go into that 165-pound class, and you grab onto that guy who, like Daniel Blanchard, who has an extremely large hand, you now know how to pull against that large hand.
Right.
You're experienced, and you can beat him that way. So by all means, pull heavier weight classes. And in my opinion, when I pull all these heavier guys, I usually beat them. So weight does matter for strength when you got like Tim Bresnan size, you're talking 280, 300 pounds.
Sure.
Then it makes a big difference. But from the top 165-pound arm wrestler is not too far behind the top 195-pound arm wrestler. As far as strength, technique, any of that. They're right neck and neck. And the same with the 195 to the 225. Todd Hutchings and Ron Bath, for example. They've had wars in the past.
Yep.
They're not in the same weight class. Mm-hmm. I've never pulled Todd Hutchings. I'd probably get smoked. I'm okay with that. But I'd love to pull him just for fun, But yeah, pull heavier guys.
So let me ask you a couple of things, Tony, because you said a lot of stuff that I'm very interested in. I'm going to rewind all the way back to when you started, when you were comparing yourself, or at least partially, to techniques that you've seen from Todd Hutchings and Travis. Jamie Sheldon is on. He says hi, first of all. He wanted you to walk us through some of the more interesting matches, particularly ones that we didn't see on TV. But before you do that, I had been saying in the last couple of shows that your technique reminded me a lot of Todd Hutchings, and it appeared, at least to us, that you were just overpowering people. And when you're talking about like the adjustments you were making and the way you were changing your technique, it wasn't necessarily obvious, at least not to me. Maybe John picked up on stuff that I missed. So my question is twofold. One, would you mind telling us about a few of those matches you had? And two, did you feel like, for the most part, you were just stronger and you were able to stick to that main technique?
No, I mean, as far as technique-wise, the main ones where I had to use a technique was, again, in the final matches. Mm-hmm. Craig Sanders, for example. He's a strap master. I wanted to stay out of the strap with him. Now, could I beat him in a strap? Probably, but I didn't want to risk it. Mm-hmm. So if you were to watch him in my first match, I gripped very low on him, did not cover my thumb knuckle, and I literally Todd Hutchings him, and I went straight down to the pad, didn't even rotate my wrist or nothing, just pure side pressure. And when I did that, I realized I was far stronger than him, mm-hmm. So, and in the second match, I could see he was going to try to hook me. I could feel it, and that's when the technique came into play. I dumped my wrist a little bit, cocked it in a little bit, and I did not want to flop his wrist for fear of getting into the strap. Mm-hmm. So then I dumped my wrist a little bit, and when the ref said go, I did kind of like a high hook, mm-hmm. but yet I didn't want to go deep inside, so I extended his arm with a high hook, mm-hmm. and that was all part of the plan from the beginning before we even started arm wrestling that second match. As far as everybody else's match, that wasn't seen. It pretty much went, except for Jamie Sheldon. He actually did move my arm just a little bit, Jamie.
Good job, Jamie.
I'll give you credit, buddy. But I mean, besides Jamie moving my arm a little bit, Justin was the only other guy that moved my arm that day backwards. So everybody else just went straight down, and if I felt I wasn't able to overpower them, then I slipped out and went to the strap. Mm-hmm. So Jamie got me on the jump without a doubt, so he did move my arm a little bit. We slipped out, went into the strap where, then I controlled the match. But yeah, I mean, there's really nothing much more to talk about with the other matches. It sounds like I'm big-headed right now, but I mean,
no, we saw it. I mean, we all saw it on TV. Like I said, it really looked like you overpowered people. It just looked like you didn't have massive struggles like we've seen in some of the other divisions.
Right, and as I'm standing down below the stages, watching all these guys have long battles, I'm smiling ear to ear.
Of course.
And Justin Bishop was too. He didn't have any battles that day either. So I mean, we're smiling ear to ear just watching these guys struggle, because we know they're getting fatigued, and we're fresh as fresh can be. Mm-hmm. So we're excited about that. And that's part of the strategy as well. I've seen Brzezinski lay his arm down from a long match because he knew he didn't want to wear himself out in the tournament. So I seen him lay his arm down. I was willing to do that day if I felt like I was going to tire myself out in the match.
Mm-hmm.
I was willing to go to the B side, work myself back up through the B side to get back into the bracket.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't have to. You know, it's all a game too, and how you play it.
Mm-hmm.
For sure, especially when it's a decent sized class and they're all bad dudes, right? There's no, every one of you guys earned your way there. So, it's a good sized class, and there's really no, like, you go to a class, a typical class, there's 16 people in it. There's warm ups in that class. It's just the way it is. And just, people come up and comers. But when you have a tournament that's been, there's been 2 qualifiers to even get there, really, then you're talking about there's really no easy matches. Everybody has a hard match.
No, it's literally the best of the best that are there, and they all are coming for that one reason, that hammer. They're all coming for that hammer, and now I kind of feel like every day I walk around, I got a huge target on my back, and I got 1,000 arm wrestlers out there gunning for it. And so I've never been in that position before, and it's kind of weird to actually be there, to say the least. I've never even dreamt of being in that position. Like I said, I thought maybe I'd win one hand, I'd have a good chance, but I never dreamed of putting Paul Tabbitt down, especially left-handed. I just remember watching him and Bishop pull last year, and him pulling Hutchings and beating Hutchings earlier in the year, and I just remember watching his rotator cuff and his joint lock. Once he gets that lock in there, it's like unbelievable. It's like trying to move a wall, and I was fortunate enough not to let him get in that lock.
Right.
So.
All right. Well, John, I got questions piling up over here, man. So I don't know if you have an amazingly smart comment you're about to make, but otherwise I'm going to ask some of these questions.
I'm not capable of an amazingly smart comment. No, please go ahead.
Yeah, so Tony, we got questions from all over the world coming in here, man. It's pretty cool. People are very excited to talk to you. So here's some easy ones from Isaac. He wants to know, do you do any hand-specific training?
I do hands twice a week.
Okay.
Grip strength. I also do opening my hand strength. Everything in a human body's got to match, meaning the top of your forearm's got to be as strong as your bottom of your forearm. Same with your hands. Your top of your hand, your opening your hand strength has to be the same as your closing your hand strength. Otherwise, your number one risk of injuring yourself, and number two, your body is going to reject it from getting stronger. So you got to be strong in all ends. I do a main hand workout one day a week where I'm out in my shed for about 40 minutes, 30 minutes, and I'll do 4 to 5 different workouts, real quick sessions depending on what I do. Sometimes it's a mass workout, sometimes it's power, depending on what workout session I'm on. And then later on throughout the weekend, like a tendon day or a rotation day, I'll throw one more hand workout in there, whether it's grippers or whether it's pinch grip or something along those lines. And I'll just throw that in there. I don't want to overdo my hands, just because with my other regimen, my other workout regimen, 6 days a week, my hands are getting worked out every day of the week.
Right.
So I don't want to overdo it and get the tennis elbow, golfer's elbow issues that, let's face it, a lot of arm wrestlers have.
So you obviously have a very organized program. I mean, is this the West Side Barbell type stuff that Todd does, or is it something similar or something you made up on your own?
Yeah, I heard, actually that's where I heard it from, was Todd, the West Side Barbell program. And I looked it up a little bit, and I just kind of rough read it, and it all made sense. So then that's when I put it all together for me and made up my own workout. And people ask me, I feel bad. I mean, I have no secrets. By all means, they can ask me any workout I do. They can come here and do it with me. I don't care. I have no secrets in any of my workouts. So there isn't one workout that hasn't been seen by somebody else in the world. It's arm wrestler workouts, period. But, I feel bad because the workouts that I do, I really don't have a name for. I just made them up.
Yeah.
And for a majority of them, except for my internal wrist workouts, meaning my wrist strength workouts, I go to the gym one day a week. Otherwise, everything else is done in my shed. The grip of death you seen on TV, I made that up. The way I do my hand grippers, I made that up. I hold a shot put ball out for my pinch grip, I made that up. There's all kinds of different workouts that I do that I don't have a name for. So when they ask me, what do I do? It's I feel bad because I I ain't got a name for them.
Yeah.
You know, and
I
I
love
can't
the
really.
shot put. I have one of those.
Yeah.
I got like three of them right over here, all different sizes. I love that. I used to carry it around the streets in the city, and people would give you crazy looks. But man, it just kills your forearms. It's such a great
Oh
workout.
yeah, absolutely. I love the shot put. I do that usually about once a week. Unless I'm start getting inflamed in the tennis elbow, then I got to lay off the shot put for a while. But otherwise, yeah, the shot put, I love it. It's one of my favorite workouts.
So we got several people asking about your diet. Let's see, Mitko is in Bulgaria, and we have Craig in New York, and they're both just curious. I mean, in general, what do you eat? Do you take supplements, that kind of stuff? Are there any advice you have for people training hard?
Yeah, you are what you eat. Period. So if you're going to eat a bunch of junk food, potato chips, potato salad, whatever you want, you're going to look like you eat a bunch of
Pretzels.
Okay, you're going to look like you do. Pretzels, they're delicious. But you're gonna look like what you eat. You're gonna feel like what you eat. I'm not on a real strict diet right now, just because I'm on my, I guess, cheat month and a half, 2 months after the finals.
Yeah.
I eat
Well earned, well earned.
whatever I want. Exactly, whatever I want, I eat. So, but as far as when I'm on my strict diet, which I'll probably start here in a couple weeks again, it's amino acids from walnuts, avocados. I'll eat 7 to 8 times a day, small meals. Except for breakfast, I'll eat a large breakfast, 4 to 5 eggs, and probably half a plate of rice or a big bowl of oatmeal. I'll always have a large breakfast. But throughout the day, I eat very small portions. Even for dinner, I'll have small portions, whether it's chicken, whether it's slow cooked brown rice, and like I said, I make sure I get my BCAA vitamins as well. I also take isotonics vitamins. They're expensive. It's a powder, but it's the only vitamin I've actually ever taken that actually physically makes me feel better.
Mm-hmm.
So they're expensive, but once again, how much is your health worth to you? Do you really want to take care of your body? Some people say, well, I can't afford that stuff, or I just bought the K8 water machine. A lot of people say, I can't afford that. Well, you'll spend $10,000 a year eating junk food, another $8,000 a year on deductible to go to the doctor because you ate all that junk food, but you won't spend a little bit amount. That's even less money to buy that water machine and eat right. So I mean, you are what you eat. You are what you drink. So you eat a bunch of junk, you're gonna feel like junk. You eat a bunch of good stuff, which Jamie Sheldon can back it up because he's probably the same way I do. You're gonna feel great. That goes into the training regimen as well. I not only train my ass off all week long, all year long, I spend hours every week prepping my meals, prepping my food, cooking my food. All that goes into a equation. Plus, I got 4 kids. I have a wife. I have a family. I have a mortgage. I have 80 acres of land I take care of. My oldest son, he's into track, cross country. He also loves to deer hunt, be outside. Plus, I have a 1-year-old, a 2-year-old, and an autistic child. So I'm doing all this stuff, plus keeping my family happy as well, or the best I can.
Sure.
I'm lucky to have a very supportive wife. But how bad do you want it? How bad do you want it? There's been times, I can give an example. 4th of July, those 2 weeks were exceptionally busy, or just before the 4th of July, before the finals, and it was 11:30 at night, and I was exhausted. My wife was exhausted. We just got home from a party, and not a drinking party, just a family party. And I got home, I put the kids to bed, and I was walking outside. She said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm going to work out." 11:30 at night. I get up at 4:30 in the morning. So how bad do you want it? You gonna go work out at 11:30 at night, or are you gonna say you're too tired? Because the day you don't work out is a day that other person's working out and gaining that little bit on you. And every day you don't work out, the little bit is gained on you, and eventually they will catch you. But then you also got to be careful you don't work out too much. You got to listen to your body. If you're like right now, my joints are screaming at me, so I'm very careful on what I do and how I work out, just because of that reason. I shouldn't even have been pulling in Chicago. I knew I shouldn't have been pulling because I wasn't healed yet, but
Right.
I did it to support for the sport.
For sure. It's a good point you make, Tony, because a lot of people, are a little reticent to share some of their training stuff. But I mean, I have elite friends who are, are runners and do races, and they if somebody can do what I do, if they're willing to put the time and the effort in and they're going to commit like I've committed, fine. I don't care if they know what I do, because they still have to go out and run 100 miles a week, or in your case, train the 6 hours a day, do all the diverse stuff you do, and combine the nutrition, and also have a supportive family and all the other stuff that you've put in to get to the level of success you've had. So it's, it's something that we talk about on the show a lot, is training, and people frequently say, well, what's the secret? What do you do for this? What do you do for that? And, everybody says the same thing, and we all know it already, but it's just good to hear it confirmed week after week that hard work is the secret. Put in the work, spend some time developing a plan, and then follow it, and, work your ass off, and you're going to make significant progress.
Right, and those are the people that are the ones that are complaining about not being on top or not being able to get to the top. Those are the people that can recite the latest CSI episode, or whatever. I don't even know what TV shows are. I can tell you the latest Peppa Pig episode. Yeah, because that's what's on when I come in the house and the kids are watching it. Other than that, I don't even know what's on TV anymore. I don't watch it.
There's arm wrestling on ESPN2 these days. You should watch it.
Yeah, that is the only show I have actually sat down to watch in many, many months. And it's a great show. Yeah. Especially the first one. That was awesome.
Yeah.
That was the best show I've ever seen. I had some beers during that one.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to combine a couple other questions together. Tomas in Chile, and also Craig, who's actually from San Diego. I said New York last time. He corrected me, so sorry, Craig.
Oh, man.
But anyway, they have a similar question. Tomas is pointing out that people, like you mentioned, Paul Talbot, Nicholas Nanestad, Mad Mask, Devin Larratt, who have that really long arm, kind of tall frame, seem to be doing dominating a lot of classes. And you don't have that frame. So were there things that you concentrated on specifically as a person who has a shorter arm to deal with that kind of pressure?
I like to put it like this. A person with a longer arm definitely has leverage advantage. There's no doubt about it. My guys in my weight class, I can say, Paul Talbot, 6'2", Justin Bishop, 6 feet. The average person, Jamie Sheldon, I think he's 5'11", 6 feet. The average person is much, much taller than me. But on the flip side, me, because I have a smaller frame, can fit a lot more strength into a smaller frame. People are telling me I look huge. But dude, I'm 5'7". I have no vertical. I'm vertically challenged, period. So I can fit a lot of strength into a short frame. When people like Paul Talbot, who's 6'2", if they were to put the amount of muscle and the amount of tendon strength I have inside me, he'd be a 220-pound monster.
Right.
But I'm short. So by me being able to put more muscle, more strength into a small frame, I can overpower the leverage on most cases. There's some cases I can't. Todd Hutchings, he's not tall. He's not tall at all. I think he's, 5'10"? He's a short person, So, when you got a smaller frame, like I said, you can simply pack more muscle into that frame rather than a tall person like Nanestad. Dude, he's 6'6", 6'8". How the hell do you make weight? Holy moly, 195?
I know.
His bones weigh more than that. But yeah, I mean, the taller person definitely has more leverage, undoubtedly. But a shorter person, if he or she is strong enough, they can combat it with strength because they can fit more in a small frame.
Yeah, and and also learning how to use your body. Guys like Chad Silvers, he's not a tall guy, 195. Nobody will argue that he's one of the dudes. And like Marcio Barboza, he's got a shorter arm, smaller hand. He's not super tall.
Oh my gosh! And his hand is smaller than mine.
Yeah, and look what he's doing with Devin. He's right in there with Devin. So yeah, I think it really does come down to also like we kind of talked about before, was figuring out your way of pulling. Take what everybody's done and then figuring out how to make it work for you. And there are advantages for that extra leverage, but there's also advantages if you know how to use them with a smaller arm. It's just the way it is.
Right. Like you said, you just got to figure it out and do your research. Instead of, I'll answer all the questions I can when people message me stuff. I'll do the best I can to answer them. But I tell you what, I've learned the most off of doing my own research. That's like an apprenticeship program. You'll learn an apprenticeship program would teach that person far more than somebody will teaching them in the classroom. So do your research, do it for yourself, look it up for yourself. You'll remember it far better than if somebody were to simply tell you it.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
So, Trevor, I'm about to ask him your question, but you should listen to what he just said. Get out there, start Googling stuff, look this stuff up yourself instead of asking people. All right, buddy? But anyway, he wants to know if he wants to know, which everybody asks. This is a very common question because none of us know what the hell we're doing. But do you do specific exercises, for tendon strength? And if you wouldn't mind sharing one or two of them. This is from Trevor Bazell, who's up in Granite Arms, New Hampshire.
What's up, Trevor?
Mm-hmm. Well, I do mainly 4 tendon strength workouts along that. I'll do it. That extends the 11-day workout cycle, so that goes like 15, 16 days, sometimes 18 days, depending on how sore I am. Tendons obviously don't heal as fast, so you got to be careful on how much you do them. Your typical band workouts, I do them. I do up pressure with my bands. That's one night workout. Then I'll do back pressure with my bands. I don't do anything side. Nothing side pressure. Golfer's elbow gets inflamed. My side pressure comes from my back pressure. It kind of goes hand in hand. So, Devin Lorette will tell you the same thing. He don't do any side pressure workouts just for the tendon inflammation, stuff like that. But he's got a ton of side pressure. One of my favorite workouts, which some people it scares the shit out of, is snapping my tendon. I'll put a ton of weight on a loading pin, and I'll keep my arm at a 90-degree angle, move my elbow off from my body, put all the pressure on that tendon, and I'll try to lift it. And I'll try to lift it fast. Not with my arm, with my legs.
Right.
So my arm's still at a 90, and I'm just lifting with my legs. And if I get it up in the air, I drop it again, I lift it right back up. It's just constant. I'm snapping that tendon, and hence tearing the tendon. And that's one of my favorite workouts. Another one of my favorite workouts is I call it a straight arm night. And this is something I've made up. I've literally made it up, so I don't even know if anybody else does it. But it's a straight arm night. If you were to look at your arm and picture yourself doing a bicep curl, you take that bicep curl, you take that 30-pound weight, and you extend it out in front of you. Where do you feel the pressure now? The pressure's in between your bicep and your forearm. Obviously, your shoulder a little bit. But pressure's in between your bicep and your forearm, which has enhanced your tendon. So every workout you do, whether it's a wrist strength, a rotation strength workout, if you do it with a straight arm, it's putting the pressure on the tendons and ligaments inside your arm instead of the muscles. It transfers from the muscle to the ligaments and the tendons. So, and that also tears it up. A lot of, some of the best arm wrestlers in the world, like for instance me, it's not because my biceps and my forearms are too big. I try to touch my shoulder with my hand. I get maybe about 4 inches away. I can't come close to my shoulder.
Right.
And it's not because my muscles are too big. It's because my tendons inside my arm are just that much bigger. Tendons don't move. Muscle moves. Mm-hmm. So after I get done doing that workout, I can barely get my arm at like a 90 above my head. It's just that inflamed inside my arm. So that's another one of my favorite workouts too. So, but like I said, you got to be careful. I'll kind of play it by ear on my tendon workouts. One day I might be able to do it, and then I have to wait 5 days to do my next one, and then after I do that one, I might be able to do it 3 days after that. So I play that one by ear and put all the other workouts that I do inside my tendon workouts.
Mm-hmm. What do you think of the importance of like tricep and chest work?
My chest work gets worked with my back pressure work. I don't work my chest. I don't work my triceps. It just all gets worked in together with the rest of my arm wrestling regimen, and hence,
right.
The only specific workout I do not for arm wrestling is rear delt. And the only reason I do that is so I don't look like a rolled forward bencher. I don't like that look. I like to be rolled backwards. It's more comfortable, less neck pain, less back pain. So that's the only workout I do that's not arm wrestling focused.
Do you think, let me ask you this. Do you want to, do, the world championship stuff, or do you have an interest in trying to go up against, Sasha Andreev or Engin Terzi, any of those guys that are around the weight you competed at WAL, and try those guys out? Or
I'd love to. There's no doubt I would love to, but at my point, I already have 3 world titles, so I have no drive to want to go and compete at Worlds.
Mhm.
I don't care about that to go win a medal anymore. I've done it. I've been there. I've done it 3 times. Well, I've done it twice at WAL, and I competed at the one in Connecticut, and I won that one. So I have 3 world titles. I have no drive to go to Bulgaria or Brazil or any of these other places to spend $3,000 to get there and back to win a medal. I have no drive to do that anymore.
would you like the WAL to start inviting more countries so that some of those guys would be coming over here to Vegas?
I would. I would definitely like that. That would be more opportunity to pull more people. There's undoubtedly. But if you're looking at the WAL, you also got to look at from their standpoint as well. Does it pay to bring Russia over or Ukraine? Not really, because I don't think ESPN is aired over there. So that's not going to get them any more viewers over in Russia and Ukraine. So obviously they're looking for viewers. They're looking for corporate sponsors. To bring in countries that ESPN isn't even in would render useless.
Mm-hmm. No, that's a legitimate point. And somebody brought that up last. I don't remember who said the same thing that you just said.
But
anyway,
I think Neil.
I think it was Neil. It was Neil. Yep. So if you could bring like 2 or 3 guys from many countries over to the WL that are around your weight, are there people that are on your list
that are not on WAL? You said
exactly.
Anybody who's ranked above me. I can't pronounce their names. I have no idea. I'm sure they're nice people. I can't pronounce their names.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
I don't even know. I haven't even looked at the PAL rankings, or whatever the rankings they got on there. So I don't even know. I think I should be ranked 4th right and 5th left or something like that. But I don't even know if they ranked them yet. But either way, anybody above me there, I'd love to pull. I'd love to arm wrestle, without a doubt. But that's also a 172-pound weight class. I'd love that too.
Yeah.
That's 7 more pounds I don't have to lose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That'd be fantastic. I can make that like walking in my sleep.
Yeah. If you can lose 7 extra pounds of water, you can. Yeah, that's a lot. Anybody who's cut weight knows that if you say you can be 7 pounds heavier, that sounds like the best idea ever.
Yep. That's fantastic. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Totally agree. How about in the States? Is anybody you're looking forward to a super match with once you heal up?
Not really. I mean, right now, everybody's gunning for me. So I guess you'd have to ask that to other people out there.
Fair enough.
I'm the guy with the target on my back at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So whoever is at tournaments, whoever is there, like I said, I like to pull heavier guys. I like to pull the 220-pound guys. I like to pull the 240-pound guys. So I'd like to pull Bollinger. I don't think I could compete with him. Scotty, I'd like to pull him, just because he's got a tremendous style, and I think we'd go into the strap right away, and my strap style would match very well against his. So we would have an absolute war. I'd like to pull him. I'd like to pull other guys as well in the heavier weight classes, just because I like to arm wrestle.
Mm-hmm.
I don't do this for the money. I made that clear on ESPN that money's great, but nobody's ever put a stack of money on their mantle. The Hammers, on the other hand, you can put them on your mantle.
You can put those on your mantle, exactly.
Yeah, you can put them on your mantle. My kids can walk in the house every single day and look at the Hammers and literally see the blood, sweat, and tears that went into earning. Literally, keyword earning the Hammers.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing was given to me. I had to earn them throughout that year. They see me every night go out to my shed. Whether like tonight, it's heat index of 102 here in Wisconsin. I was out there working out for an hour. I was sweaty. I stunk, and I still stink. I haven't taken a shower yet with you guys. But whether it's 102 degrees or it's 40 below, I'm out there working out. It's an unheated shed with a dirt floor. You don't need nothing special. It's arm wrestling, man. It's brutal, the old farm boy construction strength type stuff. So you don't need all this high-tech devices and stuff like that they have in gyms. You don't want it. That doesn't even do as good a work.
Right.
Yeah, me and Ron Klumba used to say, Bam Bam picks up heavy things and Bam Bam gets strong. It's really as simple as that, right? Power, man.
Exactly.
Once you know how to arm wrestle, get strong,
Where the heck did Ron Klemba go? He was supposed to be there this year. I wanted his left arm.
Yeah. Yeah, he's in good shape still. He's still pulling. I don't know what his
Is
goals.
he?
Yeah, I don't know what his goals are. I just saw him. I went out to Rhode Island to pull Chris Gobby, and I spent some time out there. I used to train with Ron quite a bit, so I spent some time out there. He still feels amazing. Yeah, he's still in great
Does
shape.
he?
Yeah.
Why didn't he come? Why didn't he come this year?
It's a big cut for him. I don't know if he would like to keep doing that. I don't know if that's it, but
Yeah, 165 was getting kind of difficult for him, I think, and 59 years old, weight cutting is difficult, and I think it was getting harder and harder for him.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine that at 59. I'm 33, and it's tough enough for me. I mean, losing the fat is easy. I can easily lose the fat. It's the water weight, which I'm sure Ron has the same issue. It's 59 years old. Yeah, that's brutal. No, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do that. No way.
I just looked up the rankings here, and they haven't updated them. But right hand, Giannis is number 5. The 4 guys above him, you haven't pulled, but that would put you at least at 5th. And then left hand, obviously, Oleg Zoke is on top, and Steve Talbot is actually on here 5th. I don't know if you pulled him, but
that's Paul Talbot, I believe.
Yeah,
it's not supposed to be Paul, I
I was
believe.
gonna say, I was like, who the hell's Steve? But anyway, so Paul Talbot.
Yeah, they screwed up his name.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's number 5 up there. So again, you'd be at least 4th on both of their lists based on the results of WAL. So,
Right.
pretty good.
Yeah. So anybody above that, I'm wanting to pull anybody. The rankings to me mean more than the money. So I still live paycheck to paycheck. That's the way I've always lived. I'm used to living like that. So I'm willing to take the pride over the money any day.
Well, hey,
I'm not going to spend $2,000 to go compete at some Russian event. I'm not going to do that. Because frankly, I got it now, but I don't want to spend it on going to compete to win a medal at a Russian event, But I'm waiting for them to call me. I'm waiting for them to call me and say, "Hey, we want you here to pull this guy," and so on and so forth. We'll pay for your expenses. Great, I'll be there.
Right.
Yeah. Well, it might happen.
And you mentioned
We hope so.
you mentioned before, it's a different experience now being the hunted rather than the hunter. How is your mental game going to be changing, or is it going to change at all with this new mindset of your new placing here?
Well, actually, because of I'm actually more driven now than I was last year, and the reason being is because I know everybody's on my tail, and I'm watching Justin Bishop post his videos on Facebook, and it's like, oh dang it, he's training, he's out there busting his ass, I gotta be out there too, and this finger thing is driving me nuts because I can't work my left like I want to.
Right.
My right I can work just fine, and so like I said, and I'm sure Paul Talbot's out there busting his ass too.
Oh yeah.
I'm sure he didn't like getting beat. He's never been beaten before left-handed at WL, so I'm sure he didn't like it much. So I'm sure he's trying to catch up to me. So is everybody else. Sam Harris, Jamie Sheldon. He can give himself he can cut himself down all he wants all day. Dude, that guy felt strong as hell.
Mm-hmm.
He's a strong boy. Everybody in that class felt strong. I feel that I simply, like you said, had enough side pressure to where I could overpower everybody. Yeah. And like Craig Sanders, for example, I didn't even have to rotate around his hand or wrist. I just blew right through him sideways.
Yeah, I was impressed by that. And he seemed to be, he's obviously, as you know, known as a speed puller. He didn't seem to quite figure out the goes or how to get his hit in there, and he probably should spend some time with Travis to figure that out.
There's ways you can do it in a WAL. There's ways you can still be fast. People like obviously Corey Miller wouldn't be very well in because he likes to get his own grip and everything like that. He likes to manipulate the match before it happens. But there's still ways you can be fast in a WAL. What most people don't know is that I'm exceptionally fast. I just don't go sideways very fast because I like to have control. Mm-hmm. I like to be calm. As you see, my heart rate was at 95 beats per minute. So I like to be very calm, very collective, and I don't like to go sideways unless I have to before the other opponent. I'll extend my opponent's arm before he can even think about going sideways. So what most people don't realize is I'm actually faster than all these guys. I'm just not going sideways with it. Mm-hmm. I'm just taking them out of their game, and hence taking away their speed like it did to Craig Sanders.
Right.
When you talk about up pressure, which is something we talked about briefly with Travis too, how do you describe that to people? And do you have some kind of exercise that you feel focuses on that more so than others?
I just do the band workout for up pressure. Just mainly it's like a hammer curl on the arm wrestling table, but my arm doesn't move. It's my body. It's my legs.
Right.
It's my legs bending. It's my body moving backwards. My arm doesn't move, except it moves with my body. That's with the bands. I don't have a lot of weight on the bands. I don't know how much is on there, but I just go red band, green band, gray band, purple band, and then my big thick band. I'll put them all on there. And I don't know how much weight that is. Frankly, I don't care how much weight it is.
Max effort.
Right, it's max effort, exactly. So I just use the bands for up pressure, and that's it. And I'll do that, like I said, once every 13, 14, 15 days. And I'll rotate in back pressure, and I'll rotate in snapping the tendon, straight arm workouts, and then on top of that, I'm working my internal wrists, my rotation in my wrists, my hand strength, and rotator cuff strength and stuff like that. Core strength is also important. Most people overlook.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, big time. And when I think about that up pressure, I think about, like you said, it's basically a hammer curl. You just don't move. You just don't actually curl. You just get in a position, lock down, and you basically drop. And really, I think about pushing my hand straight through the match. Straight up. I just picture making a shelf with the top of my hand and just punching straight up through, just straight up. And I almost envision using my front delt. It never really happens because if you did, it would obviously your elbow would come up. But it's almost like pushing just your fist straight up through the hands. And in the strap.
And it is, but the difference between the up pressure you're talking about and the up pressure that I myself and Travis do, you guys, you're talking straight like this. If you were to actually watch Travis's matches, he's actually in like this, going to his up pressure. So he's controlling his opponent's palm, as am I. I don't use up pressure until I feel it's necessary, but that's how Travis pulls. You can see that he pulls with his palm, and his palm and his bottom two fingers control the match.
Mm-hmm. I think that I'm very impressed by Travis in general, and we can't talk about the results of next week yet, but he's not exactly been shy about it online, and the fact that his technique is so advanced, and it just seems like people have a hell of a time figuring him out. It just impresses me. And then I talked to him for a long time on the phone once, and then at Gillette about up pressure, and I still only have a really basic understanding of what you were just saying, because he described it very similarly to me, and talking about curling his back and kind of exploding all at once. And I love that stuff, man, because there's even though we know a lot about the techniques and people like you have really become masters at specific angles, most of us are at like grade school level trying to figure this stuff out, and it's fascinating to me how much we don't know, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Right, it's just repetition over and over and over and over again. And I arm wrestle with my group of guys here about once a month. And, a lot of people tell you table time is the most important. I happen to disagree. Table time is the most important if you're still an amateur or a new professional and you still have technique to work on. People like myself, Travis Page and John Brzezing, Todd Hutchings, we've all been there. We've already worked on that technique. We've mastered the technique. We just got to keep it up like once a month like that to keep it fresh, So we got the technique there. Now we have a huge advantage because we have the technique. We don't have to work on that as much. We can work on pure strength.
Yeah,
it's always it's an interesting little dichotomy because you have people like you guys who have reached the top level doing it that way, and then you have Devin who basically is on the table every single minute that he can get and does.
How's he do it?
I don't know.
If I arm wrestle that once a month, I'm done for 2 weeks. My tendons are burning. They're on fire. I don't know how that man does it. And he's got old balls, too. He's an old man. I don't know how he does it.
Yeah, you can see a difference, though, in his style versus others. He's very endurance-based. He locks his arm, he catches people and wears them out until the point where they have nothing left. My son loves watching him because he's just waiting for him to shake his head and look at the guy and say, do you want me to pin you or are you just going to drop your arm? It's amazing to me how frequently people's like, okay, fine, and they just quit.
Yep.
It's incredible because for these guys are serious. They're not like clowns that are just going to give up. So they must feel an incredible amount of power for them to just lay down basically over and over again. Last night watching it, it was incredible to me how many people did that.
Well, you can look at Devin Lorette, and like you said, his endurance is what he relies on. Devin is undoubtedly one of the strongest back pressure arm wrestlers out there. He extends his opponent's arms, and he's so tall. Even if he's unable to extend his opponent's arm, he can still get halfway across the table and not have to.
Yeah.
But if you notice Devin, he doesn't have a lot of side pressure. And I think I remember him telling me one time he doesn't do side pressure because of the golfer's elbow issue. So with the lack of side pressure, even last night I had my wife ask me, why is he just sitting with him instead of the table? And I said, because he can't bring him over. Even though he's sitting comfortably. And last year I was the same way. This year's a little different. My side pressure's gotten tremendously stronger. He can sit in the center of the table comfortably in his locking position while his opponent pounds away at his arm, but his side pressure is not strong enough to bring his opponent down to the pad. Yep. So he has to wait then for his opponent to tire out, because his opponent is using every muscle in his hand, his wrist, his shoulder to try to blow through Devin's lock, and you won't blow through that lock. He's sitting there with the pressure on a rotator cuff, pressure's on his joint in his elbow, and he's sitting there comfortably with his hand relaxed while yours is pounding away. Mm-hmm. So his opponent's going to tire out. He's still going to be somewhat fresh after the 20 seconds, and that's when he gets comfortable, starts smiling at his opponent, and will slowly bring him back.
Sure.
Well, you can see that with one of the Matt Mask matches when Matt's like, well, why don't you just pull me over? And he was saying, well, I don't want to be mean. But you could tell he actually couldn't pull him over because he did try once and he got stopped immediately. So it's like, he's not ready yet.
It made me laugh because he goes, I don't want to. And then Matt goes, go ahead. He goes, I can't.
I gotta slap Matt Mask on the side of the head or something, dude. That man over-rotates way too much. Yeah. He over-rotates. He loses all his power in his arm, and he just... He goes from using all hammer strength, from inner forearm and hammer muscle strength to just hammer muscle strength. He over rotates his opponents. If you look at John Brzenk pull, Todd Hutchings pull, even Travis Bajan pull in his style, they never overextend unless it's mandatory they do so. They never overextend their opponent's wrist where the wrist flops back. Mm-hmm. They keep position in the palm. They control the hand. They control the wrist, and then they bring him down that way. Matt Mask could be so much. He could beat Devin, in my opinion, if he does not overextend the wrist. If he would focus more on controlling the palm rather than the fingers and overextending the wrist.
Well, he's coming on in a couple of weeks. We will share that advice with him when he comes on.
Well, don't tell him too much because he's a lot bigger than me.
That's funny, man. Yeah, I'm looking forward to also, the super heavyweights, for obviously Travis, but in the women's as well. Because we've seen very little of that, and I hear it was quite exciting. Did you get to see any of the women compete?
No, I actually didn't get to see anybody compete, because it was the heavyweights and the 195-pound guys pulling when I was dehydrating myself and trying to make weight. And when I did make weight, it's time to rehydrate myself. So I'm not down there watching people arm wrestling. I'm focused on eating my complex carbs, drinking a specific amount of water, drinking your Pedialyte, every 45 minutes, every hour. I mean, I got everything down to a schedule, down to a science to where it works best for me. So I wasn't able to do so. And then for the heavyweights, I wasn't able to watch them either because every time I got done arm wrestling and the heavyweights came on, ESPN came around and said, hey, we got to interview you.
Right.
All right, so then I go sit in the back room. I wait half hour, 45 minutes just to get into the back interview room. And then they bring me in there, and I'm there for 45 minutes, and I don't get to watch the heavyweights. So watching all this stuff on TV is brand new to me. I've never seen these matches before.
That's kind of cool then. So you're seeing a lot of it for the first time like us.
Literally, I'm seeing it for the first time, yeah.
A couple people we talked to, and I was talking to, were saying that they were pretty amazed by your weight cut, based, knowing what you walk around at. And they said, when they saw you prior to weighing in, they're like, oh man, if he had to lose 1 more pound, that'd be it. He'd just be dead. So basically, you didn't look that great. And then by the time the competition came around, you looked like a superhero, basically. Mm-hmm. So obviously, you put a lot of thought in, and you have very controlled weight cut, like many guys in MMA do. but it is a controversial subject in general because of it is dangerous. And speaking about Ron Klember earlier, the older you get, the harder it is to do. Do you think that
I'm gonna cut you off there. I gotta go in the other room. My battery's dying, so I gotta plug my phone in.
all right?
So go ahead, though.
Yeah. So I guess it's a two-part question. The first part is: do you think there should be more weight classes to minimize the amount of weight cutting that people have to do?
Me personally, I don't believe there should be, because no matter what the weight class is, there's always going to be people cutting weight, and there's going to be people cutting weight to a dramatic fashion. And just like there is at nationals, people will cut 20 pounds to win a medal. And UFC, George St. Pierre, one of the greatest, in my opinion, ever, he'll cut 25 pounds in just water weight alone. Same with Anderson Silva and all them. They'll cut a dramatic amount of weight.
Yep.
And so even if you do create more weight classes, in my opinion, that's not going to really matter much, because they're still going to try to get down to the lowest possible weight they can get to.
Right.
Well, the primary people you hear about it from are like the people who are, say, in the 240 range, or people that are in like the 150 range. So they're either too light, or they can't cut to 220, so they feel like, okay, I'm going up against Chafee and Cataret, and my natural weight is 240. Or my natural weight's 147, 148, and I'm going up against guys like you that are 190. Those are usually the people we hear that from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's the people that are complaining that it's not catering to them. Mm-hmm. As I was stating before, arm wrestling is not catering, or any sport is not catering to one person, period. So it's catering to a company, in hence like the WL, catering to them as a whole, or arm wrestlers as a whole. So people, in my opinion, got to stop looking at it as themselves and start looking at it as an arm wrestling organization. Mm-hmm. Okay, I weigh 147 pounds. I need to get up to 165. What do? You eat. Right. And, I can guarantee you all those 147-pound guys that are talking out there are not eating like I am. Mm-hmm. They're not eating like Craig Touye is. They're not eating like Todd Hutchings is. They're the ones complaining, but yet they're not the ones willing to put the effort into it either. Mm-hmm. But there's a few guys, or maybe a woman out there that has some sort of deficiency with their weight, where they can't gain weight. Once again, it might not be for you then. Period. Like I said, I'm 5'7". I can't play in the NBA. I acknowledge that. I accept it. But like I said, if you're 150 pounds, there's no reason why you can't get up to 165, 170 in a year and a half, 2 years. There's no reason at all. Just eat properly. Stop eating pizza. I had a guy ask me one time for some diet advice, and I gave him the diet advice. I told him this is what you do. He wanted to get down to 132 pounds. I told him this is what you do. He tried it for a day and a half. He contacted me back, said, I can't do it. I don't like vegetables. and I said, well, it's not about what you like, because I don't eat for what I like. I eat because I need to eat it. It's not about flavor. So either you eat it or you don't do it. He chose not to do it. So right. There's a good example.
Yeah, for sure. And like we had discussed on a few shows already, is the first 30, 40 years of the sport, the best arm wrestler on the planet was 215 pounds. Yeah. So like as far as ultimately weight, everybody's gonna fall into a certain bracket, but you're right. Not everything caters to one person. It's not any right. one sport. It's a sport. It's just it is what it is.
Yeah, it's you got linemen on the San Francisco 49ers versus the Green Bay Packers, when the front lineman might be 240 pounds on the Green Bay Packers, San Francisco lineman is 280 pounds. That's how it is. You got to deal with it. You can't complain about it. You got to figure out a way around it. Obviously, the 280-pound guy is probably going to be stronger than the 240-pound guy. That's clear. That's common sense. So the 240-pound guy has to work around his strength, try to figure out how he can get around it, how to avoid it, and go at it from that angle. A good option would be the strap. The strap is a huge option. If you know how to pull on the strap, you can beat guys 3 times as strong as you. Do your homework, do your math, try to figure out what works for you and what is going to be able to allow you to beat these big guys that are, like I said, 280 pounds and you're 240. There's always ways around it.
Yeah,
always.
Definitely, and have some patience. This sport is not a sport that happens in a year. It just isn't. I mean, when did you start pulling?
I started pulling in 2002.
Yeah, so 14 years. Does it feel like 14 years though? Yeah, I mean,
Right. I mean, there was a 6-7 year period where I got hurt and I took some time off because of shoulder injury. I then had shoulder rotator cuff surgery and I was fine. But, football is the same way. Baseball is the same way. If you really look at it, these guys, or I should say kids, because they're probably younger than me now, these kids are 23, 24, 25 years old. They're no different than me arm wrestling for 14 years because they've been playing football since they were 8 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So they've been playing football for 15 years.
Right.
So every sport's the same way. A UFC fighter, you can say the same thing. He's not going to step into the ring and be the world champion in a year. It's not how it works. He probably grew up fighting in high school, fighting in junior high, just for fun.
Right.
And then he just loved the sport of UFC, and he's been doing it for himself for 14, 15 years. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, no matter what sport you do, you're doing it for many, many, many years to get to be the best.
Mm-hmm.
So whether it's baseball, like I said, you play baseball when you start 5 years old, 4 years old.
Sure.
And the pros are 25 to 30 years old. That's 20 years of baseball.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, every sport, not just arm wrestling, it takes many, many, many years to get to be the best.
Tony, so people are very happy to have listened to you. They got all kinds of people saying thank you very much for all the advice. So first of all, I want to share that. But we've kept you on here for like 80 minutes, but I wanted to ask you one more question before you left. Because I've been asking all of the WAL superstars the same thing. Is there anything that you'd like to see them change or add for next year?
Well, I'm looking at it as a whole, as building the sport as a whole. And the way I see it is the arm wrestler somehow has to get into the viewers' homes. Obviously not physically, but somehow need to get into the viewer's home, whether it's through a coffee mug, through a T-shirt, through some sort of advertising piece. I was hoping I was going to see that on ESPN to where, get your coffee mug of this person, get your T-shirt or your hat or whatever, your bandana of this person on it at this website, but it didn't say that. It said, go to this website for WALunderground.com for more info. Mm-hmm. For me as a viewer, I'm trying to put myself as a viewer, I'm going to look at that as I have nothing to want to see on that website. I just enjoyed watching TV, But if you were to have a TV commercial or advertisement about the wrestler, and you can go buy Tony Kitowski or Devin Lorette or Todd Hutching or Nanastad, you can go buy their stuff online at this website. That would give somebody some sort of incentive to go. And as far as arm wrestling as a whole as well, travel to your events. Go to your events. If you're still sore, go to your event. Go to that event, don't arm wrestle. If you don't want to arm wrestle, don't arm wrestle. But in order to keep arm wrestling growing, we need to be filling up venues, period. So if you're having it at a fair, you got to have 200 people standing around watching, or that fair is not going to want you back the next year.
Right.
Or in a sports bar, you need to literally pack that sports bar. If it can fit 700 people in there, you need to fit 700 people in there. And it's not going to be packed if you're saying, well, I'm too sore, I'm not going to arm wrestle anyway, so I'm not going to go. Then the sport's not going to grow either. You got to put your time into it. You got to put your effort into it. I went to Chicago 2 weeks ago. Shouldn't have arm wrestled. I told people I shouldn't have arm wrestled. I did it. Yeah, I got a little injured, but it was worth it. This weekend I'm going to Minnesota. I'm not even arm wrestling. I'm just going there just to support my buddy Josh Hanlon in his tournament. I'm going to help him ref for free. I'm just going to do it just because I want to be there. I want to grow the sport. And then, and then 3 weeks later I'll be in Sheboygan at the state fair tournament here in Wisconsin. That's 3 hours away from me. I'm doing a lot of traveling, thanks once again to my wife. She's very supportive, but you got to support the events, period. If you want the sport to grow and you want it to be bigger, you need to support it, period. It starts off with us arm wrestlers, and the viewers will just follow.
Right, that's a good point. Yeah, because for a lot of years we've been, we've heard that we are the audience, right? The arm wrestlers are the audience. Well, some arm wrestlers aren't. Some arm wrestlers, like you said, I don't feel like going. I'm too sore. Blah blah blah. Well, go and be the audience then. You know, if all the arm wrestlers were the audience, then you're right. The actual audience will follow, right? Yeah,
right,
I think
exactly.
that's a good idea. Yeah, and I'll be at that tournament too. I'll be at Josh's tournament too this weekend, reffing. So I'll look forward to seeing you.
Fantastic. Maybe we'll be on the same table.
Probably, yeah.
I'll bring my hammers just for you.
Okay, good.
Plural hammers.
Yeah, plural hammers. We got that, man. We got that. Tony, this was awesome. I really appreciate you coming on, man. You answered a lot of people's questions, and it was great. I learned a lot myself, so thanks again for coming on and spending the time with us.
My pleasure, guys.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, we'll do it again soon. Take care.
Sounds good. You too.
All right, brother.